Okay, third graders, to begin, we're going to have, just like our other units, we're going to have some vocabulary to start. I put it up a little bit different this time. So this is going to be our animal classifications vocabulary for we want to go to day 1 of reading. So give me a second. Day 1, animal classification vocabulary for day 1 of reading. And we're going to go over some of our words that we are going to see. So some of these words are going to be things you are probably familiar with from previous years or previous times of learning. But the first one is going to be a carnivore. What's our word?
Carnivore.
So I added pictures with it this time to just kind of give us an idea. But a carnivore is an animal that mainly eats meat. So carnivore is what? They eat meat. They eat meat, which would mean they are eating other animals, okay? Carnivores are going to eat mainly other animals. Their diet is going to consist of mostly other animals, meat, right? So our word is carnivore. Turn and tell your neighbor what a carnivore is. 3, 2, 1. When you tell we're going to do it again, but this time when you tell your neighbor what a carnivore is, I want you to use the word carnivore. So your sentence might start with something like, a carnivore is blank. Turn and talk. 3, 2, 1. Our next word is something you guys have already told me about today, and we've already described and we've already made some observations about. And it is going to be a habitat. What is our word?
Habitat.
The habitat is a place where plants or animals live and grow. So I think it's important to note that a habitat is not just where animals and people are growing, but also that habitat refers to where the plants are living, okay? So that habitat is a place where plants or animals grow. This time when I have you turn and talk, again, you're going to use the word habitat. And I want you to tell your neighbor the habitat of one of the animals we just saw. Go.
The habitat of the
Chloe, you tell me what. Perfect. So tell me a little bit about the habitat of the elephant we just saw using the habitat. Perfect. So you're saying the elephant habitat. Thing about it. What do you think they do with that water? Right. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to have Chloe share hers with me because she's the only one we got to talk to. Chloe, tell us what you told me about one of the habitats we just saw.
The elephant habitat, it has a little elephant habitat has a thing of water.
Fabulous. That's something about the habitat. One key there is Chloe did use the elephant habitat. She's letting me know what she's describing in that sentence. Good. Our next word is the word herbivore. What's our word?
Herbivore.
This is going to be the opposite of a carnivore. And a herbivore is an animal that only eats plants. A herbivore is an animal that
only eats plants.
It does not have meat in its diet. Okay? No, an herbivore only eats plants. It does not have meat in its diet, okay?
That's like me. I'm a vegetarian.
Cool, that's awesome. I want you to turn and tell your neighbor an animal. Listen first. Give an example of an animal you predict is an herbivore. Make sure when you tell your neighbor the animal you predict as an herbivore, you use the word
Herbivore.
Go. Awesome. Good job. That means you're a complete sentence. 3, 2, 1. Griffin. Your name was called Griffin. Tell us. Remember to use the word.
A herbivore is animal that only eats plants and goats do.
Ooh, so he kind of switched up. Well, a plant is an animal that only, or an herbivore is an animal that only eats plants, and goats do. Goats do what?
Trash.
Goats eat
Anything.
I'm sorry. Is your name Griffin?
Goats eat. Well, some goats eat plants.
Fabulous. And this is our goat. He is an example of an herbivore. Good. Third graders, our next word is an omnivore. What's our word?
Omnivore.
An omnivore is going to be an animal that eats both plants and meat. So I chose a bear today because I know that bears like to fish, and fish are an example of meat. But I also know that bears like to forage for berries and other wonderful, delicious things that they can find. So they are an example of an animal that eats both plants and meat. I would call that an
Omnivore.
I would like you to turn and tell your neighbor an animal you think would be an omnivore. Make sure to use the word
Omnivore.
in your sentence. 30 seconds, go. I know bears. I can't think of other ones. So I'm not sure what other animals would be omnivores eating both plants and meat. 3, 2, 1. Fabulous. Third graders, we are going to move on. Are you ready? Perfect. Good.